And I've been a little bit lucky. I've been actually able to hang out with Takako to talk about this session. We've had two solid calls, and after each call, I've just left buzzing. So I'm so stoked to be able to share this with you. And just a little bit about Takako. Takako coaches the Japanese Olympic climbing team, which is at the moment nationally ranked #1. So they're best in the world. And their individual athletes are ranked #1 across bouldering and lead climbing. So I don't know much about climbing, but what I've heard about it is the culture is absolutely magnificent. And from what I've heard from Takako about it, it's magnificent. So to be the most magnificent of a magnificent culture in sport, I think is pretty magnificent. I'd say that many times. Takako is also trained in the martial art of Kendo and the ancient Japanese warrior practice of Bushido, which we'll be riffing on today a little bit. And she's also a peak performance coach with the Flow Genome Project. And that's how I know Takako. So I've been very fortunate to have done some training with Takako. And the first time I met her was in the California redwood forests in this retreat. And each night we would get together in a group of 8 and we would tell stories. And Takako is a little bit modest about how beautiful her language is. And she's the only one out of the eight of us who had English as her second language. And every time she spoke, we all did. We just kind of got lost in these stories, in the narrative. It was like poetry. And I sort of thought, maybe it's because Takako's it's her second language and it's kind of like poetry, the way that she speaks, and it's beautiful. But now, after being able to chat with her in more depth about the meanings behind language, I know it's actually what we're talking about today. It's Kotodama, so it's the spirit of the language. So when Takako speaks, she's actually speaking the spirit, and that's what was dropping into our hearts each night in the California redwoods. And so I'd just love to introduce her, and I'm frothing and stoked and pumped and honored to welcome you to the reunion. And I'd just like to throw one last thing out. If you've got any comments or questions, please put them in the chat. This is a generative space, so filled with love, and we'll have some Q&As a little bit of the way through, and so there'll be plenty of space for jams and riffs. So Takako, would you like to jump in?
Thank you, Benny, so much for your beautiful introduction. I am really honored to be here, part of the Reunion tribe. You have built up beautiful community with a beautiful heart, and I am very excited to be here. I like this intimate environment, number of people. So I hope we have a chance to chat in the end and open up the microphones to discussion for questions and maybe exchange some of the similar experiences that you have with your culture on the spirit of the language. Thank you so much for me being here. First of all, I would like to introduce about me. I was born and grown up in a little countryside of Japan. It's a bit embarrassing. This has watermarks, but please ignore it. So this is my hometown. It's called Yunotani, literally means the small village with the hot springs. We have lots of hot springs, and we have 4 distinctive seasons in our land. Winter is the longest one and the hard one to the people, but makes us very humble. And spring is the most glorious one. After such a long winter, everything comes out with full of life. And our village people, all the village people are full of joy and a miracle in the air. And we share this moment every year together with everybody in our village. And summer is really hot because we are on a at that place. And the Japanese summer is quite humid and intense, but it also teaches us it doesn't last forever. After such an intense time, it always comes down and coming back to the nature. And the autumn is the most beautiful time of the year. All the trees color changes into red, bright yellow, and a green, and it's just burst. It's like the bursting the life to the fullest or the most before going to die, as in die every year, become the winter covered with snow to purify and come back with the new life again. So I'm so happy and I feel so lucky to be born in such a beautiful place with a family that loved me and my brothers fully. They put themselves second and they always gave me a full of love in this place. So I was born in a small village full of snow. We have 4 meters of snow every winter. And when I was a kid, the snow just accumulate, and we have to get rid of the snow from the roof and it accumulates. So we were coming in and out from the second stories every winter. It was quite fun, but also it was quite harsh. And it taught us a lot of important things in life. I went to a school. So this village is quite small. We have only 6,000 people in a village, but the land was quite big. It's about 350 square kilometers. And out of this land, only 3% is the flat land. Other 97% is the mountain and the lake and the water and river. And out of this 3%, another 3% is the land for the houses. So 97% of the flat land is for rice field and vegetable fields and so on and so forth. So you can imagine how rural area that where I grew up. I had only 12 classmates in the class at school. We had it was a small school. So we did all the activity together, like playing baseball, going for ski, hiking, running around and study together. And one of the activities that we did was all the students, kids, go to the dojo after school. Dojo is where we practice Budo, martial arts. This is me practicing Kendo with the bamboo sword. And I practiced Kendo for 12 years until I graduated from high school. And recently I got reconnected with Budo again, martial arts again. And luckily I am under a master, a famous master. And I am very happy and lucky for this environment. And this martial arts is not about competition or win or lose, but martial arts train us how to live the life fully. I learned how to center myself and how to create the energy from the center of my body and how to control it, how to execute when I need. And this, you can see the samurai sword just behind the master. But using the real sword, we don't kill other opponent or others, but we rather purify the evil soul and choose to co-live together even with the opponent. And we practice our mind and heart, soul, and the body as one. This is the beauty of practicing Budo, and I recommend you to practice maybe Aikido, Karate, Judo, Budo, any form of martial arts when you have an opportunities. And in the center of our culture, we have this indigenous faith called Shinto. Shinto is not a religion. Shinto doesn't have any books, or Shinto doesn't have any idols for us to worship. Shinto is our indigenous faith, which is very close to the animism. It is a way of life that has been part of our Japanese culture. It is based on mythology and animism. I will give you a little story how Japan was made. So there was this 3 energy up in the sky, and at that time it was a dark time. But these 3 divine gathered together and created like a big bang out of the dark matter. And this became an energy exploded and shattered into piece of the light. And then each one becomes the star and the divine and the existence of the universe. And out of which there were 2, one couple, men and women, was born. And they put the stick from the cloud into the turmoil, like liquid. And they were turning, and they put it up from the turmoil, and they dripped something. And this became an island of part of Japan. And they dripped, and they dripped, and they dripped. As you know, we are a collection of islands. This gradually became the land of Japan. And this divine will create the sun, creates the spirit in the sun. So we worship the sun. They created the kami, divine, in the ocean. So we believe that something greater exists everywhere in the nature. For example, the sun is the god, and the ocean is the god, and the river, water, fire, and the tree, and the lights everywhere. We called kami as a divine. So we have 8 million of divines everywhere in our nature and in our environment. So this helped us to see what we don't actually see. Spirit exists everywhere, and this is something we believe but we cannot see. And today I would like to talk about Kotodama. Kotodama, koto means language, the word. Tama means the spirit. This tama is actually can be a ghost, or can be a spirit, can be a soul. We believed that mystical powers dwell in words or names. So as soon as we tap in our inner source and the sound came out from our mouth, this particle travels through the air like a wave and reach to others. And this has intention, this has the power, and this has this mystical powers in it. So we were told to be careful about what we speak If you say good things, it will come back to you. It will say bad things, it will also come back to you. So we were very conscious about our language, what to speak. Japanese language has 51 primordial sounds. Like for example, a is one primordial sound, I, u, e, o, and we have 51 sounds, and each sound has the particular energy that leads to some particular meaning. So, for example, a is the beginning of everything. A is the beginning of everything. So, is love that comes first, for example. And the next word, for example, ne consists with two sounds. It represents inochi, means life, death or life. And ne is the root, for example, root of the tree, root. So ne means the root of the life, source of the life. So ine, it's as a word means can be a rice plant. Actually, the rice plant was the first and most important crop which was given from the divine, from the sky, and passed on to us human beings. So, as you know, Japanese cuisine, we respect rice the most. And rice is the center of our meal. And we skip anything but rice. And rice can, if we ferment rice, it becomes a rice wine, sake, which is quite nice. And if you culture it, it can be the spice that culture or fish or vegetable to bring the umami, the goodness of the ingredients, and keep it longer without the fridge. So sound and the word gives us a lot of wisdom as we used. And ine means rice plant, but it comes from the source of life that creates us. And the next example is hi, to. Hi is one word. To is one sound. Hi actually means spirit or ghost or soul energy. To means to stop. So hito is in different kanji. We write like this as hito, but hito originally comes from the body that stops the energy. Energy comes all from everywhere, from outside the body, and energy comes into our body and stops here. And this is up to us to regenerate, expand the energy as a free flow of energy, or to contract, and you control it and you execute when you need it. So hito, human being, is actually where all the energy stops and give the life to. This is our indigenous language wisdom that we have passed on. So we believe the power of word, and because the word has its spirit and the meaning itself, so we will be very careful when we transmit our sound to outside our body, because it is also heard from some spirit. Something we put out from our body, it already a thing, it has our own energy. And this energy will correspond with other energies, between people, and it will grow as it goes. So we also unconsciously know that the voice will be heard somewhere, either good or bad. Do you so far do you understand what I am trying to say? Benny, do you have any comment? Yes?
No, I think I'm getting thumbs up, we're getting smiles, we're getting, from what I can see, it all looks good.
Okay, thank you very much. So I want to talk a little bit more about the background of our language, of the culture. Some of you might know our language. Japanese language doesn't have a subject. For example, I or you or she or he. We tend to omit this subject out of the sentence. And also, it is very passive. For example, if I talk to Benny, if I want Benny to pass me the salt, what I do is, first of all, I will look at Benny's face and make eye contact to Benny. And I get the attention with the Benny, from the Benny, and I will sort of use this air around to give a signal of what I want without saying it. And I will use the minimum sound to pass the message. And Benny, 塩を取ってください。Take the salt. And I don't say any object to me. I don't say that to me because Benny understands that salt should pass back to me. So this is like a minimum conversation to make the communication with other human being. So Japanese language does not have subject or object, and it's quite passive. And we try to communicate between sentences. And this actually lives even now. So when I talk to Japanese people, I always pay attention a lot, especially in the business field or friendship. I have to pay a lot of attention to read between the lines because people don't express, people don't say it. But I have to understand, I have to know it before they speak to me. So this is the hard part of the Japanese. But our language originally, traditionally, has been passed on to us orally, not in a written form. So this is kind of normal for us, how we develop the language with the spirit in it. And so having said that, I want to introduce three kind of famous and important words of Japanese. Maybe some of you may already know. So, question. Does anybody know how to say thank you in Japanese?
はい。
どうぞ。
ありがとうございます。
Thank you. That's correct. So, ありがとうございます is a very polite way to say thank you to others. And ありがとう is the base word to feel thankful for others. And where this comes from is actually ありがたい means that あり means have or exist. The situation exists, existing situation. And がたい means it's unlikely to happen or it's impossible to happen otherwise. So it's very hard to happen is がたい and あり is existing. So literally means this situation is so impossible to be happening, but thanks to you, thanks to everything around us, it happened right here, right now. this is the expression that we have and we own and we value in our life. Arigato, be thankful, be grateful for other things. And when we say thank you, arigato, it doesn't only mean one thing. For example, if I receive something and thank you so much, and arigato is not only to you or to the things, but all the situation around us. This person's kind thought about doing some action to me, or this taking a moment to think about the kindness to others, or fortunate situation that fall from the sky, otherwise it doesn't happen. And it's all the coincidence of this unlikely situation is the spirit that we are thankful for. So the base of arigato, thank you, has this meaning. So next question. Who knows a phrase we say before the meal? So someone cooks the meal and we will say,
いただきます。
ah, thank you. Perfect. So before the meal, we will put our hands together, says, いただきます. And いただきます means, いただく means to receive. Mas is to end the sentence with politeness. So いただきます means the will of I shall receive. So whatever in front of me, I will receive with gratitude. So this is the meaning of いただきます. When I have a meal, maybe I cooked for myself, or my mother cooked for me, or someone cooked for me, but I feel thankful not only to be able to have this meal, or to be thankful for someone who cooked for me, but all the connection and relation towards to this meal. For example, I am thankful for the opportunities that I am being able to eat. I am thankful for my body to be able to eat and taste and digest into my body to grow. I am thankful for someone actually put some time and effort to make something good for me, good for my soul and the body. I am thankful for the fortunate situation that I am able to eat. I am thankful for someone who has grown this vegetable, who has brought this vegetable to here, blah, blah, blah. So everything, いただきます, I shall receive, includes all the connection of thankfulness in this language. And the last word is when we say, how are you? Are you well? How do you say to reply to me? 元気ですか? I would say, 元気ですか? Are you well? How are you? What would you say to me?
元気。はい、元気です。
はい、元気です。ありがとうございます。And sometimes we put before answering はい、元気です to express my condition as of now. I am full of ki, I am full of energy. We say おかげさまで. And this おかげさま means 影 means shadow from the light and shadow. And sama is to be thankful for the others or other situations. So おかげさま means I am in the shadow of the light. And for me being here is because of everything around me. So おかげさま it means being thankful for everything that connects to me. So as you know, with these three words, Japanese language is very passive and not really I or you or I insist in this way, but we are here, being here as we are, because we are part of the universe, part of everything surround us, everything connected to us. And the reason why I can be here, being fulfilled and fortunate, is because of the ancestors who has passed the life to us, and the probability, how to say, the miracles that has been passed to us, and also the intention and wisdom that has been passed to us. And we believe the language carries all these fortunes and message to others, to make the relationship with others. And so believing in something you cannot see but be grateful is based on our culture and most important things in our life. Now, last but not least, I would like to share some our virtue, our way of life, what our way of life is based on. These days, there are so many arguments and some uncomfortabilities, and sometimes I also be in a situation whether I should do this, I should do that, or was my action right or wrong, or was my language or word right or wrong. I've become to learn most important thing is to come to the center of ourself with the soul of being. And instead of deciding right or wrong from my center, we choose the beauty in life. What makes the action more beautiful in a way? For example, if I want to, instead of choosing, is this a right choice or wrong choice, I would go for which is more beautiful for me to act upon it. For example, purity or braveness or kindness, or this kind of all the things that maybe your grandmother has taught to you, all the goodness that you find it right to do it. And I would like to end my sharing by saying that, yes, I would rather choose the beauty, how I want to act based on the beauty, rather than right or wrong as a choice. Do you have any questions?
I'll just say a collective thank you. Amazing, beautiful. Thank you so much, Takako. I already knew most of that because I was in the planning, and it was still epic. I learned so much, so many new things. And someone's asked, Sandy and Nick asked for the slides, so we'll be able to share those around to everyone. If anyone's got any burning questions, feel free to unmute or put your hand up first.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Wonderful. I noticed a couple of things so I had one question and one curiosity. The curiosity was around the difference in the Japanese writing versus the phonetics of the English that you showed in Kotodama, and the Japanese was Kototama, and then also arigato, and you had arigatai, which I haven't seen those bases or sources of those words before. So that was a curiosity, and thanks for sharing those because I never knew that in my time of learning Japanese.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, for Kotodama, we have this da or ta. The difference, the word itself is the same, but our ancient language, we didn't have this da or ga or tenten. The how do you say the sound, not the clear sound, dakten, tonten. So we didn't have that originally. So ancient language, it's kototama. Tama in actually means the ball, like ball or the light or the soul. And so that is originated. But because we have in Japanese character has a hiragana, a, I, U, E, O, kakiku, keko, and originally it was an oral language, not the written language. But, and so our first historical book, written book, officially, was actually by Chinese people who came to Japan and observed, oh, this is what's happening, this is Japan. And they have actually recorded what Japan was in Chinese character. And since then, we had learned and kind of imported their characters, kanji characters into Japanese language. And we have adapted the image of the character. For example, mountain is like this, and this is yama, but sound is Japanese ancient language, but we imported the character to represent the meaning of that character. So after that, we have a bit of a different pronunciation for different language, but thank you for asking.
Thanks for explaining more. It's fascinating, and loved all of the things that you've shared. I have one other question, but I won't hold the floor. I'll ask it after the others have had a chance.
Go for it, Ange.
Takako, that was so beautiful. This is going to be really weird feedback, but I actually don't feel like swearing when I say something in a moment. That's really massive because, and I don't want to yucky this conversation with this question, but I must know, what is your parliament like? Like this language, if our leaders could like have that respect and gratefulness and appreciation in everything they speak. We have something here called question time. I just can't even think how your parliament conversations go. And now you understand why I really want to swear, but I can't. Thank you. This is beautiful.
Thank you, Ange, for interesting observation. And yes, that makes sense a lot. Thank you. Yeah, originally, we don't have much swearing word in Japanese. Maybe a few. Baka, like baka literally means horse and and the animals that we looked down to, sort of, and baka or this, but not so much words to be aggressive to others. I think I'm aware of our parliament, the very childish shouting stage that doesn't make any sense. And I think that also comes from the reason where our emotions is suppressed some way, because we don't know how to express logically. We never learned logical speaking or English way of thinking and making communication with. So when Parliament was also quite new to our country, only after World War II, I think. So it's only this time, and there's the politicians who became, these people who became a politician had a rich background or different, So at this moment, unfortunately, we don't have very good politicians who could express without hurting anyone or without suppress the feelings for such a long time before they burst into something dark or aggressive. So I think not only the power of language, but the way for us to be able to present something in a good manner to someone, we have so much to learn from the English way of thinking and speaking logically and so on and so forth. But it was not in our culture traditionally. Interesting. Thank you.
I'll jump in. There's something I haven't spoken to you a lot about, Takako, and that's your communications with your athletes. I'm fascinated by that. The group that you're guiding to become world champions. And you did mention to me once, though, that which is similarity between Aussie and Japan is a little bit of lingo and slang. So you were telling me that there's words that you guys are making up on the fly. This is very close to my heart, and we like to manipulate words. So if you could speak to that a little bit, I'd love to hear about how you speak to your athletes, and what's the lingo.
Yeah, for my work, I interact with athletes. Athletes that I interact with is the selected athletes to the top of the pyramid, and they're intelligent and they are focused and they are open to even more improvement and so on. That kind of people that I am lucky to work with. And usually, and these people trains in a different part of Japan. So when we form as a team, national team, they already have what they've got, what they've trained for. So my role is to open up their potential, get rid of all the clutters that might interact with them, but clear the path and let them perform their best in that moment of the situation. So on site, I do not step in too much. I try to observe, and I try to step in only when it's needed, and just to make sure that they know they have everything they've got. And when observing the expression situations and all the games going, then this is how we communicate. Now, Benny and I talked about before that how Japan team is very special and became the top of the world as a team. Japanese language is quite special. I know. I think other English speakers don't understand what we are talking about in the competition, and we invent some words and creating some words to articulate some small subtle movement of the fingers or the body position or the shape of the hold, or we invent a lot as a group coherence. We invent something funny, bright, smart, common words to get connected even more. And we immediately have the same image of that small subtle movement or the shape or some body position by this invented word, and that creates our atmosphere. And by using these words repeatedly, this becomes our culture, and this lead into even very precise expression on the composition or on that field. So we and also enjoy creating, inventing words as we go along. And I think this is the sign of the good community or the tribe, for example, like you are creating this beautiful community, the reunion, I really, really love. I think in that tribe or community, you can play as you go and even get connected even closer to other human beings, I think. Does it make sense?
Takako, yeah, so much is coming up for me listening to this. I don't want to hog things because we haven't got much time left. But thank you so much. I haven't really known much about the Japanese language, but the topic of languages and how we perceive the world has come up a lot in discussion lately. And I was discussing with some friends around. I don't know if you've seen the film Arrival. It's a Villeneuve film, and these aliens come down and they have this tool, and it's misunderstood as being a weapon or a tool, but essentially it's a language. And through this language, time is experienced and perceived differently. And just so much of that is true just in our own lives. If you listen to Tyson Yunkaporta talk about how Australian Indigenous perceive time, there's like ancestor time, and then there's dream time, and then there's kind of now time. And even in terms of complexity in this world that we're finding ourselves in, that languages such as Chinese, they've been found that Chinese studies have found that Chinese are able to perceive more complexity than say Western cultures because of the language, because of the characters. When they read, it's all about the context. So you'll see a character in the context of other characters, and it looks like it's similar with Japanese. And so they're able to understand complexity more. Benita Roy talks about how if you listen to Indigenous elders talk, they've got what she calls a coherent minimalism, where they'll use very few words. However, they'll be explaining expansive, massive, complex ideas, and you will understand them really well. And she said even people who've spent a lot of time with elders such as Stephen Jenkins, and just seeing your talk, and sort of that a sound can mean the beginning of the universe or the root of a tree. And having been someone who's, I've learnt French, English is my native language. It's quite linear, and like you said, it's a bit logical, and I feel like the only time English can be sort of get into that is through poetry, and poetry can be using words to really communicate really complex emotions and ideas and concepts, but it's not necessarily something that everybody can, an art form that everybody can exercise. So I'm just really blown away by this, and to some extent, Benny, you sort of saying we like to make up words. I just wonder if we need to evolve English to take some of this in somehow. And yeah, it's huge. My mind's kind of exploding. Thank you, Takako.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. I really like the I can resonate with what you've saying and what you thought from this talk, and I like this. And when you say about coherence minimalism, and this makes me think how much noise we have in this world, language or the images or the noise, the mechanical noise and everything. And if we could put our mind into centered and being grateful for everything around us. In the very, very ancient Japanese time, 20,000 years ago, we had this tribe called Jomon people. Jomon people was the very first human being that had a very superpower, I think, that time. And they focused on, they were living in now. And just this right moment, this moment with appreciation. So their mind was connected with the universe. So they could, like, for example, if you go to the rural area of the mountain in Japan, there's a huge rock just in on top of the mountain. It doesn't, the mountain cannot create this big rock because it doesn't shape like this, or it cannot go from anywhere because there's no higher place. So at that time, they could, even with the coherence mind, with the appreciation of right now, right here, right now, they could even bring up the whole big rock into somewhere. And this is another myth, true or not, just putting besides. But sometimes we are exposed to too much information and noise and so on, including the language. And I think sometimes it's good to, when I was living in China, it was good and bad. It was a very noisy place and really noisy, and people will try to push you, harass you, cut in the queue, and sometimes I had a really hard time. At work, everybody speaks at the same time. When somebody wants to talk to me, 5 people will talk to me at the same time. And I, long time after, I realized, this is why I'm tired, because I am trying to pay attention to 5 people at the same time. So I decided to cut down the noise by putting some headphones or creating some environment to cut down the noise. That made me become a bit more clear and focused on what I should do. And sometimes without our conscious towards this kind of situation, what's happening around us, it is hard to avoid. So it is good to know that minimum noise information creates even higher coherence with other people to connect with. And we are becoming even part of the bigger picture and creating even more goodness to go around in us. So thank you for reminding me of this feeling. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Takako. Feels like Japanese is, from what you've told us, is at its heart a language that does that, and then so much more. So thank you so much for sharing. Just looking at the time, perfect, bang on, 7 o'clock here on the Gold Coast. If you need to jump off, you can, but otherwise we're going to stick around for after session hangs for 15 minutes with Takako. And I just wanted to say a massive thank you from Reunion and everyone at Reunion for this beautiful presentation and this Q&A. Much appreciated. And yeah, I'm going to finish off with a quick breath. So if everyone wants to just come roll the shoulders, just lower your eyes if you feel comfortable, and just empty your lungs. Just one big breath in through the nose and hold it at the top. And when you need to, just blow it out. Thanks, everyone. And if you've got any more questions, yeah, feel free to continue the riff.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.